Former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull is calling on his former coalition colleagues to refer Peter Dutton's eligibility to the High Court. Mr Dutton has faced scrutiny over his family's financial interest in 2 government-subsidised childcare centres and whether that breaches the Constitution's ban on politicians benefiting financially from the Commonwealth. Political reporter Caitlin Gribben joins us now from Parliament House. Caitlin, good morning. So what has the Prime Minister had to say exactly? Oh, the former Prime Minister, sorry, had to say exactly.
It is a little bit confusing, Joe, because we're still in this sort of zone where we're not entirely sure even who is leading the country, but can confirm Scott Morrison's got the top job now, and he's had to respond this morning to this tweet from his predecessor. Of course, now in this age of Twitter, you can pretty much just drop one tweet and all of the news cycle changes. Yep. Just seeing now that message that Malcolm Turnbull sent out from New York last night saying the point I've made to Scott Morrison and other colleagues is that given the uncertainty around Peter Dutton's eligibility, acknowledged by the Solicitor General, he should be referred to the High Court as Barnaby Joyce was to clarify the matter. As you mentioned, Joe, Peter Dutton, the Home Affairs Minister, has a financial interest in some childcare centres that receive government subsidies. That's why there's some questions about whether or not he could be in breach of the Constitution. Now, back during the Liberal leadership spill during that week, this was sort of dealt with. Malcolm Turnbull saying to Peter Dutton, if you'd like to challenge me, firstly make sure you are eligible to sit in the Parliament. Now, the Solicitor General gave Peter Dutton some advice, which I guess wasn't entirely clear-cut, Joe. In very, legal terms, we heard the Solicitor General say to Peter Dutton, you are not incapable of remaining in the Parliament. So appearing to back Peter Dutton's eligibility to sit here in Canberra, but definitely not entirely clear-cut. That's Malcolm Turnbull's argument as well. He believes that the High Court should now deal with this issue. But, Joe, it's not the government's intention to move for a referral. This was dealt with in the lower house when Malcolm Turnbull was still the Prime Minister, and the lower house did not vote in favour of referring Mr Dutton to the High Court. But now that Malcolm Turnbull has weighed in, Labor will not be able to leave this issue alone. Of course, they would like to refer the Home Affairs Minister to the High Court, but they would need some government MPs to cross the floor to do that, which would be a pretty big deal. We don't see that all that often. Scott Morrison says the Parliament's already decided on this issue. He's been speaking earlier this morning.
Yeah, whatever job you're in, people will give you advice and you listen to it and you respect it. But at the end of the day, you've got to make the calls. I mean, on this issue, it was only a couple of weeks ago. In fact, this matter was actually voted on in the House of Representatives and was determined that was not necessary by the Parliament. So, look, I think people have had enough of the lawyers' picnics on these sort of issues, and they want us to focus completely and totally on what the nation needs here and now.
Scott Morrison speaking there this morning. And Caitlin, how's Malcolm Turnbull's commentary been received by other members of the government?
Yeah, so there's been a bit of reaction, Joe. We've heard from the Deputy Prime Minister this morning, Michael McCormack. We'll hear from him in a moment. But also we've heard a bit from the opposition side of the Parliament. As I mentioned, they're going to run with this pretty hard now that Malcolm Turnbull's intervened, given this story some more legs, you could say. Labor wants the Prime Minister to go to Peter Dutton today and encourage him to refer himself to the High Court. Michael McCormack, the leader of the Nationals, says that Malcolm Turnbull can now say whatever he likes. He has some more time to share his opinions. He was speaking in the corridors here in Parliament House a little time ago.
Look, people have different reasons for doing different things, and I appreciate that, if you're a leader who's lost his job, well, and you're sitting in New York, sometimes you want to have commentary about what is going on in Australia. Look, I understand that, I appreciate that, but the fact is Peter Dutton has explained on the floor of the House of Representatives that he's always been compliant with cabinet processes. I believe him in that regard.
That's the Deputy Prime Minister, Michael McCormack, pointing out that Mr Turnbull, Joe, has a bit of extra time on his hands at the moment while he's in New York, and decided that he might send out a tweet or two. Who knows what he'll do next on the tweet? He might decide that that's enough for now. He's certainly made some headlines in his first really political intervention back into domestic politics since he was rolled as leader.
OK, Caitlin Gribben reporting there from Canberra.